In one single afternoon, the entire NASCAR championship picture just got blown apart. A points leader who looked untouchable on Saturday is suddenly drowning near the back of the field by Sunday evening. And the man who finished 26 laps down from the win, the man nobody was talking about heading into the weekend, just walked away with the biggest prize of all, the points lead in the Cup Series championship battle. This is not a normal Sunday at Sonoma. This is chaos. This is NASCAR eating itself alive on live television, in front of millions of fans who came expecting a road course race and got a championship earthquake instead. And by the time the checkered flag fell, nothing about the title fight looked the way it did that morning. So let's break down exactly what happened, because what unfolded at Sonoma Raceway this weekend might end up being the single most important afternoon of the entire 2026 NASCAR season. Stay with me, because this story has layers most fans haven't even seen yet. Here's the situation heading into the weekend, and you need this context to understand just how stunning this turn of events really was. Tyler Reddick rolled into Sonoma Raceway as the Cup Series points leader. Not by a little, by a real, meaningful margin, 8 points clear of his closest rival, Denny Hamlin. Reddick had momentum. He had control. He had built, race by race, week by week, the kind of cushion that championship contenders dream about having at the halfway point of the season. This wasn't a fluke either. Reddick had been consistent, calculated. The kind of driver who doesn't make the flashy headlines every week, but quietly accumulates points while everyone else focuses on who won. Meanwhile, all eyes were on someone else entirely. Shane Van Gisbergen, the road course king, the man with 7 career Cup wins and not a single one of them coming on an oval track, arrived as the overwhelming favorite. And for very good reason. Sonoma was his house. This was the final road course of the regular season, the place where he dominated the year before, leading 97 of 110 laps in his previous victory here. Sportsbooks had him as low as -150 to win. Analysts were calling it almost a foregone conclusion. But here's the thing about NASCAR, and about championships in general. They are not won by who's fastest on a given Sunday. They are won by who survives the chaos that nobody sees coming. And on this particular Sunday, at Sonoma, Tyler Reddick did not survive. So what actually happened out there on that twisting, brutal road course? Was this simple bad luck, the kind of random mechanical gremlin that can strike any team, on any car, on any given Sunday, completely without warning? Or was this something deeper, a warning sign, a crack in the foundation for a 23-11 racing team that has shown flashes of vulnerability all season long, even while sitting atop the standings? And maybe the bigger question of all, does this single afternoon at Sonoma end up being remembered as the moment the entire 2026 championship race quietly changed hands? Stick around, because the answer to all of this might completely change how you see the rest of this championship season. Let's go back to the beginning of the weekend, because the warning signs were there before the race even started, if you knew where to look. Qualifying at Sonoma produced one of the tightest sessions of the entire year. Ty Gibbs grabbed the pole, his 3rd career pole position, running his fastest lap on just his 4th time around the circuit. Behind him, the speed chart was almost unbelievably bunched, less than a single tenth of a second separating the top 6 cars. Shane Van Gisbergen, the heavy favorite, the man expected to dominate this race from the front, could only manage 6th on the grid. A small crack in the narrative. Nobody paid much attention to it at the time. And buried in the qualifying results was another small, easily overlooked detail. In the direct battle for the championship lead, Denny Hamlin actually outqualified Tyler Reddick. Hamlin would start 9th. Reddick would start 11th. It seemed minor. A few grid positions in a road course race. Nothing that should decide a championship. But sometimes the smallest details end up being the first chapter of the biggest stories. The green flag drops. The race is on. Ty Gibbs jumps out front and sweeps the opening 2 stages from the pole, leading 31 laps in dominant fashion before fading back in the final stretch. For a while, it looks like a straightforward road course race, full of clean racing and predictable rhythms. Then, early in the event, disaster strikes, and it strikes the one car nobody expected to be vulnerable. Tyler Reddick's car develops a power steering failure. Now, On most racetracks, that's a problem. At Sonoma, a tight, twisting, physically punishing 1.99-mile road course with 16 corners demanding constant, forceful steering input. It's something close to a death sentence for a race. Power steering isn't a luxury out there. It's survival equipment. Every single corner becomes a brutal physical fight. Every input that should take a fraction of a second now takes effort, strain, and time. Lap after lap, the car that started the day with a championship lead begins bleeding time it can never get back. Reddick falls back, one lap down, then multiple laps down, fighting just to stay somewhere near the lead pack, fighting a car that's betraying him corner after corner while the championship picture shifts beneath his feet in real time. Meanwhile, up at the front, it's an absolute masterclass. Van Gisbergen, despite that surprising sixth-place start, methodically works his way forward and seizes control of the race. He leads the overwhelming majority of the laps, builds a gap after the final pit cycle, and never looks seriously threatened. Chase Briscoe mounts the strongest challenge of the afternoon in the closing laps, clawing back time, hunting the leader, but it isn't enough. Van Gisbergen crosses the line first by just over a second, securing his second win of the 2026 season and further cementing his reputation as the most dominant road course racer of this generation, closing in on Jeff Gordon's all-time Cup Series road course win record. But here's the part that should make every NASCAR fan sit up straight. The real story of this race isn't happening in victory lane. It's happening dozens of positions back, where a power steering failure is quietly rewriting the entire championship picture. So what actually caused this failure? And more importantly, could happen again? Some are calling this pure misfortune, the cruel, unpredictable randomness that has always existed in motorsport, where a single failed component can undo months of careful, disciplined points racing in the span of one unlucky afternoon. Mechanical failures happen. Cars are complex machines pushed to their absolute limits. And sometimes parts simply fail at the worst possible moment, with no warning and no pattern behind it. But others aren't so willing to call this just bad luck. There are harder questions being asked across the NASCAR community right now. Is this part of a larger pattern for a 23-11 racing organization that has shown moments of mechanical and strategic vulnerability throughout this season, even while their drivers sat atop the standings? Was there a setup decision, a maintenance oversight, a part pushed past its limit that left this car exposed at exactly the wrong track, at exactly the wrong time? NASCAR insiders are split on this one. Some point specifically to Sonoma itself, a track that punishes mechanical weakness harder than almost anywhere else on the schedule, where the constant steering demands can expose even the smallest flaw in a power steering system. By that logic, this failure could have been lurking for weeks, only revealing itself when the track finally demanded everything the system had to give. Others argue that championship-caliber teams simply cannot afford failures like this, full stop. A real title contender, the argument goes, needs to have not just speed but bulletproof reliability, and a power steering failure at a critical road course is exactly the kind of mistake that separates teams who talk about championships from teams who actually win them. Both sides have a point, and that tension, speed versus reliability, talent versus preparation, is exactly what's fueling the debate across NASCAR right now. But then everything changed in an instant, because while Reddick was fighting just to survive the afternoon, Denny Hamlin was quietly, calmly, almost invisibly doing exactly enough to capitalize. Social media did not stay quiet for long once Reddick's struggles became clear. Within minutes, fan timelines exploded with reaction, a chaotic mix of shock, sympathy, frustration, and intense debate. Some fans rushed to defend Reddick, calling it a brutal, undeserved break for a driver who had spent the entire first half of the season building a real, legitimate points cushion through consistency and discipline. To lose that lead not through a mistake on the track, but through a mechanical betrayal felt, to many fans, deeply unfair. Others weren't nearly as sympathetic. Championship contenders, they argued, are supposed to overcome adversity, not be undone by it. If your equipment fails you in a moment that matters, some fans suggested, that's still part of the championship fight. Cars break. Title contenders find a way through it anyway. There's also been a noticeable wave of chatter circulating about exactly who benefits from this outcome. 2311 Racing, the very team experiencing this mechanical letdown, is co-owned by none other than Denny Hamlin himself. The irony of Hamlin directly benefiting in the standings from a failure inside a team he partially owns has not gone unnoticed by sharp-eyed fans, and it's fueling even more speculation and conversation across NASCAR circles online. Meanwhile, the broader reaction from the NASCAR community has settled into one consistent and recurring theme. This is exactly why championship points battles can flip in an instant, without warning, without mercy. One mechanical failure, one unlucky Sunday, and the entire complexion of a season-long championship race changes in real time, live in front of millions of viewers. So let's talk about what this actually means going forward, because the numbers tell a story all their own. Reddick finishes 36th. Hamlin finishes 26th. On the surface, neither of those results looks like a highlight reel moment. Neither driver is anywhere near victory lane. But in the brutal, unforgiving math of championship points racing, the gap between these two men completely flips. Hamlin moves into the Cup Series regular season points lead. Reddick, who entered the weekend in firm, comfortable control of the standings, now finds himself needing to rebuild that advantage from scratch. And this matters far beyond just bragging rights for the regular season. These standings directly shape playoff seeding, playoff points carried into the postseason, and, just as importantly, momentum heading into the most pressure-packed stretch of the entire NASCAR calendar. A cushion that took months of disciplined, consistent racing to build can evaporate in a single unlucky afternoon, and that is exactly what just happened at Sonoma. For Van Gisbergen, this win further cements his legacy as the defining road course talent of this era of NASCAR, putting him within striking distance of Jeff Gordon's all-time road course win record. But in the broader context of this championship season, his dominant victory is almost secondary to the seismic shift happening behind him in the standings. For Reddick, the long-term question is much bigger than just one disappointing race result. Can his team identify and eliminate this mechanical vulnerability before the postseason arrives? Can they rebuild the confidence and the cushion they had heading into Sonoma? Or will this race be remembered months from now as the exact turning point where his championship hopes quietly began slipping through his fingers? For Hamlin, the opportunity is obvious. A driver who didn't even crack the top 25 on Sunday now finds himself with the points lead simply by surviving while a rival faltered. That's championship racing in its rawest form. Sometimes you don't win the race, you just outlast everyone else's worst day. So here's the question nobody can answer yet, and it's the question that's going to define the rest of this NASCAR season. With Sonoma, just one bad day, a single unlucky mechanical failure that Reddick's team quickly diagnoses, fixes, and rebound from within a matter of weeks? Or did we just witness live, in real time, the exact moment the 2026 championship race actually changed hand for good? Because right now, the man holding the points lead isn't the man who won the race. He isn't even the man who finished in the top 20. And in NASCAR, that's exactly how legends start to unravel, and how unexpected champions start to rise quietly when nobody's even watching them. Is this really the beginning of the end for Reddick's championship hopes this season? Or is something even bigger about to be revealed in the weeks ahead? If you want to stay ahead of every single twist in this championship battle, the wins, the failures, the controversies absolutely nobody sees coming until it's too late, make sure you're subscribed right now, because this story is far from over. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and we'll see you in the next breaking NASCAR update.